Your engagement party is supposed to be the happiest night of your life. But imagine standing under the lights, smiling for your guests, and suddenly the entire room goes silent. Whispers spread, phones start recording, someone laughs. And in seconds, the life you thought you were about to begin collapses in front of everyone you know. Then, in the middle of the chaos, a man nobody expected walks into the room, calm, watching, waiting. He doesn't say much, but by the end of that night, one decision will destroy an engagement, ignite a dangerous war, and bind two strangers together in a way no one saw coming. Welcome to Endless Story Diaries. Before we continue this story, take a moment and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. If this story has you hooked so far, give the video a like and share it with someone who loves intense romance stories. And hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what comes next. Bonnie Caldwell never liked spotlights, but her aunt said an engagement party demanded them. The ballroom of the waterfront hotel in Baltimore glowed with rented chandeliers and too many candles. A banner that read Bonnie plus Grant hung over a champagne tower. Bonnie stood beneath it, palms damp, listening to strangers tell her she looked radiant and so lucky. Grant Anderson moved through the crowd like he owned the air. He was polished, his smile practiced, his hand always finding the small of Bonnie's back as if to remind her who was steering. He proposed 3 months ago after a charity gala, ring glittering under fairy lights and camera flashes. Since then, Bonnie had been learning the rules of his world. What to say, how to smile on command. Her cousin Lena was the only familiar anchor. Lena hovered beside Bonnie in a sleek black dress, sipping ginger ale and murmuring jokes about the hotel's carpet. When Bonnie laughed, it felt like oxygen. "Your mom is about to cry again," Lena whispered, nodding toward the buffet. "If she makes it to the shrimp, she survive." Bonnie managed a grin. "You're my favorite person here." "That's because I'm the only one not auditioning to be your bridesmaid," Lena said. And for a second she looked like the girl who used to share hoodies with Bonnie during sleepovers. The band shifted into a slow song. Grant took Bonnie's hand and guided her to the dance floor. His palm was cool and sure. "Smile," he murmured, lips barely moving. Phones were up. Bonnie smiled because the room demanded it. Grant swayed with her, careful and distant, like they were rehearsing. "After the speeches," he said, "we're announcing the venue." "I haven't even seen it," Bonnie whispered. "You'll love it," Grant said. Bonnie whispered. "My mother did." The song ended, applause rose, and Grant kissed her cheek light, strategic before releasing her. The MC tapped the microphone. "If everyone could gather, we're going to hear from the happy couple." Bonnie's aunt tugged her forward. Bonnie took her place beside Grant, facing a sea of faces. Her mother's eyes shone with tears. Her father stood stiff, trying to look proud. Lena slipped into the front row. Grant lifted the mic first. "Thank you all for coming. It means the world to us." His gaze skimmed the room, landing on his father, then his mother. "Bonnie has changed my life," he continued. "She's extraordinary." Bonnie raised her mic. She'd practiced a small speech about love and partnership and how, for the first time, she felt chosen. "Hi," she began. "I just want to say thank you." The ballroom doors opened. The hush that followed was physical, like the air thickened. Bonnie turned, expecting a late guest. Instead, a man walked in with the measured pace of someone who never arrived uncertain. He was tall, dressed in a black suit that fit like it was built for him. His hair was dark and neat, his face sharp with a calm that made people step aside without knowing why. Two men followed several steps behind. Whispers rose. Bonnie heard Grant's mother hiss. "Who is that?" Grant's smile froze. His knuckles whitened around the mic. The stranger's eyes found Grant first. Then they moved to Bonnie, pausing on her like he already knew the ending. He inclined his head politely, almost apologetically, and kept walking toward the bar. Grant cleared his throat. Too loud. "Sorry for the interruption." "As I was saying," but the room didn't come back. Phones tilted. Bonnie's aunt leaned close and whispered, "Is that Pyung-hee Han?" Lena went still. "That's him," she breathed. Bonnie had heard the name like a warning. Han Group, Korean money, security contracts. Grant had called him a predator. then laughed like it was nothing. Kyung Hee Han stopped at the bar, spoke quietly to the bartender, and took a glass of water. He didn't look back at the stage. He didn't need to. Bonnie tried to continue. Her words tangled. Grant's eyes stayed locked on Kyung Hee with something that looked like hate and fear braided together. A soft laugh cut through her sentence. It came from Lena. Bonnie turned, shocked. Lena's smile was bright, but her eyes were hard. "Oh, Bonnie," Lena said, voice carrying in the sudden silence. "Still pretending you don't see it." Bonnie's stomach dropped. "Lena, what are you?" Grant hissed. "Stop." Lena stepped up, took the mic from Bonnie's numb hands. "Everyone's here," she said. "So I guess there's no better time." She lifted her chin. "Grant and I have been in love for years." The room fractured into murmurs. Bonnie's ears rang. She watched Lena's mouth move, but the words arrived slow, heavy, unreal. Grant reached toward Lena not to stop her but to steady her elbow. Intimate. Familiar. He didn't deny it. Lena's voice shook with adrenaline. "Watching this performance. It's wrong. It's been wrong." Bonnie stared at Grant, waiting for him to laugh, to call it a prank. His eyes wouldn't meet hers. Her father stepped forward, jaw tight. "Grant, is this true?" Grant swallowed. "I didn't want it to come out like this." The ring on Bonnie's finger suddenly felt like a cuff. Lena's tone softened into something almost kind. "Bonnie, you're strong. You'll be fine. But I can't watch you marry someone who belongs with me." Grant finally looked at Bonnie. His expression was pleading, like she could save him from what he'd done. "Bonnie, I'm sorry," he said into the mic, and it sounded like it was for the room, not for her. "I thought I could, but I can't." Bonnie's vision blurred. She saw her mother's face collapse. She saw phones recording. She saw Grant's father whispering, already calculating. At the bar, Kyung Hee Han lifted his water and took a slow sip, eyes on Grant as if he'd been waiting for this exact moment. Bonnie turned and ran. She didn't stop until air hit her lungs and the music became distant. The harbor wind slapped Bonnie's face and turned her tears sharp. She stumbled along the hotel's side walkway, heels skidding on wet stone, breathing like she'd been running for miles. Inside, the band kept playing. Every time a door opened, laughter spilled out as if the room were digesting her humiliation. She shoved through a service entrance and into a back hallway that smelled like bleach and burnt coffee. A bell cart sat abandoned with stacks of folded linens. Bonnie pressed her back to the wall, then slid down until she was sitting on cold tile, head bowed, trying to stop shaking. Voices drifted from around the corner, men's voices, low and urgent. "Anderson's people are already calling," one said. "They want him out tonight," another voice answered, calm, clipped, touched by an accent. "Let them call." Footsteps approached. Bonnie scrambled upright, wiping her cheeks. Kyung Hee Han turned the corner with two men behind him and stopped when he saw her. Up close, his calm looked like armor. His eyes flicked over her smeared mascara, her trembling hands, the engagement ring still on her finger. The men behind him scanned the hallway and went still. "I'm sorry," Bonnie rasped. "I didn't mean to." Kyung Hee lifted a hand. "You're Bonnie Caldwell. I didn't tell you my name." "I read the banner," he said. And there was no humor in it. His gaze slid toward the ballroom doors. "You should leave before they follow." Bonnie swallowed. "I can't go back in there." "No," he agreed. "You can't." A cold dread spread through her ribs. "Why are you here?" she asked. Kyung Hee's eyes sharpened. "Because Grant Anderson owes me," he said. "And he doesn't like paying." One of his men murmured, "Mr. Han, the car is ready." Kyung Hee didn't move. "Do you have somewhere safe to go tonight?" he asked Bonnie. Safe. Her apartment was 15 minutes away, but the thought of walking into it alone while videos of the party exploded online made her stomach twist. Her mother would call. Her aunt would call. Lena might call, smiling through the phone like she'd done nothing. "I have a place," Bonnie said. "But everyone knows where." Kyung Hee's jaw tightened. "Then come with me." Bonnie blinked hard. "What?" "It will be quieter," he said. Grant's people won't reach you. Her pulse spiked. A stranger offering rescue was the kind of story that ended badly. Kyung-hee seemed to read the fear in her face. He pulled a business card from his jacket and held it out without stepping closer. Kyung-hee Han Security and Logistics, a DC address, a direct number. If you don't want to, he said, walk away. I won't stop you. Before Bonnie could answer, the service door banged open behind her. Bonnie! Her aunt's voice echoed down the hall. Where did you go? Bonnie's throat closed. She pictured being dragged back into that ballroom, pushed into a smile, told to take the high road while everyone recorded her cracking. She made a decision on instinct. Okay, she whispered. I'll go. Kyung-hee nodded once. Now. They moved fast through a different corridor and out into a side lot where a black sedan waited with its engine running. Rain beaded on the hood. A door opened. Bonnie slid into the back seat, heart hammering. Kyung-hee got in beside her, leaving a careful gap. One man drove. The other sat in front, watching the mirrors. The car pulled away. Bonnie twisted to look back. The ballroom windows glowed behind them like a bright wound. For a while, the only sound was tires hissing on wet pavement. Bonnie stared at her hands. The ring flashed and suddenly felt obscene. She yanked it off and crushed it in her fist until the edges bit. You'll bleed, Kyung-hee said quietly. Good, she muttered. The corner of his mouth twitched, almost a smile, then vanished. Anger will keep you standing, he said. Don't waste it. Bonnie turned toward him. His profile was sharp in the streetlight. Eyes forward, expression unreadable. What do you want from me? She asked. Tonight, nothing. Tonight you disappear. And tomorrow? Kyung-hee's voice stayed even. Tomorrow Grant Anderson buries you, he said. He says you were unstable. He says you were jealous. He makes you the problem so he can stay clean. Bonnie's stomach dropped. He wouldn't. He already did, Kyung-hee said. In a room full of witnesses, Bonnie's chest tightened as she imagined the captions people would write before midnight. Kyung-hee pulled a thin packet from a folder and placed it on the seat between them. He didn't touch her. This is an agreement, he said. If you sign, my attorneys control the narrative. Statements go out tonight. Tomorrow you will not be his target. Bonnie stared at the pages. Why would you help me? Because I'm at war with him, Kyung-hee said, plain and unromantic. And because you're in the blast zone. Bonnie flipped through. Legal language swam. Confidentiality, public statements, mutual benefit. Her mind was too loud to read every line, but she saw the shape of it. Protection in exchange for proximity. If I sign, she asked, voice thin. What does it cost? Kyung-hee finally looked at her. Your name beside mine, he said. Bonnie turned to the last page. 2 signature lines. Under hers, a word printed like a verdict. Spouse. Her breath caught. This is marriage. A contract marriage, he corrected. 1 year, separate rooms, no romance clause, no touching clause. You keep your life. I get what I need to break Grant. You're insane, Bonnie whispered. Possibly, Kyung-hee said. But I'm honest. The sedan's tires hissed as the highway opened toward DC. Bonnie stared at the word spouse until it blurred. She heard Lena's laugh again, saw Grant's refusal to meet her eyes, felt the room turning her pain into gossip. Bonnie picked up the pen with fingers that didn't feel like hers and signed before she could think herself out of it. She exhaled, shaking. By the time they reached DC, Bonnie's phone was a storm. Missed calls, texts, clips from the ballroom already spreading with captions that made her feel naked. She turned the screen face down like it could burn. Kyung-hee guided her through a private garage into a glass tower. The elevator rose without stopping. When the doors opened, Bonnie stepped into a penthouse that felt more like a showroom than a home. Clean lines. Pale wood, wide windows, no photos, no clutter, nothing soft enough to hold a memory. Your room, Kyung-hee said, nodding to a door. Lock it if it helps. Bonnie swallowed. Do you have anything I can wear? He opened a closet and handed her a plain black hoodie and sweatpants, obviously his. Their sleeves hung past her hands. When her fingers brushed his, heat jumped up her arm, quick and confusing. She shut herself in the room and cried until her throat hurt. Then she washed her face, changed and stared at her reflection. In his clothes she looked smaller, like she'd stepped into someone else's life by accident. When she came back out, Kyung-hee had a folder on the table, the contract she'd signed now marked with colored tabs. He pointed to the couch. Sit. Bonnie perched on the edge. What happens now? My attorney files the marriage license in the morning, Kyung-hee said. Tonight, we release a statement. A statement about U.S.? Her voice cracked. Kyung-hee slid his phone toward her. The draft was crisp, clinical. Bonnie Caldwell and Kyung-hee Han confirm a private ceremony. They ask for respect. No further comment. No mention of Lena, no mention of Grant. It wasn't romantic, but it was armor. Bonnie read it twice. People will think I'm crazy, she whispered. Engaged one day, married the next. They'll think you survived, Kyung-hee said. And they'll stop laughing when they remember who I am. That was the first time Bonnie understood his protection. Not tenderness, power. Her phone buzzed again. An unknown number slipped past her blocked notifications. You can't hide forever. Grant doesn't lose. Bonnie showed it to Kyung-hee with numb fingers. He glanced once and handed the phone to the man who'd driven them. Trace it, he said, as casually as asking for water. Bonnie stared. That's a threat. It's a test, Kyung-hee replied. Fear makes people sloppy. They want you sloppy. Who are they? Bonnie asked. Kyung-hee was quiet a moment, eyes on the window. Grant's family sells clean images, he said. But Grant hires dirty hands when he needs them. Bonnie's stomach rolled. Because of you? Kyung-hee's jaw tightened. Because of me, he said. And because you embarrassed him by being harmed in public. A soft knock sounded. One of Kyung-hee's men set a tablet on the table. Headlines were already forming. Rebound wedding? Humiliated bride marries DC tycoon. Some called it fake. Some called it ruthless. Bonnie's name was everywhere, but the tone had changed. People weren't laughing as loudly. You planned this fast, Bonnie said. Kyung-hee's eyes settled on her. I planned for Grant to betray someone, he said. I didn't plan for it to be you. Bonnie looked down at her hands. The engagement ring was still there, pressed into her palm like a piece of shrapnel. She opened her fist and saw a thin-cut blood bright against brown skin. Kyung-hee's expression sharpened. He returned with a first aid kit, knelt in front of her, and took her hand without asking. His touch was careful, controlled, warm. You don't have to punish yourself, he said. Bonnie's eyes stung. I feel stupid, she whispered. I stood there while they made me the problem. Kyung-hee cleaned the cut and taped a small bandage over it. You ran, he said. That was smart. A shaky laugh escaped her, half sob. Smart would have been never meeting Grant. Kyung-hee's gaze lifted to her face. For a second, something softer lit behind his eyes, quick as a match flare. Smart, he said, is what you do next. Near midnight, another message hit. Tell your new husband he can't protect you. We're coming. The room went cold. The man Kyung-hee had sent to trace the first message returned, face tight. Mr. Han. Two men used Anderson's name downstairs. They pushed for private elevator access. Kyung-hee stood. All softness vanished. Lock this floor, he ordered. Now. Bonnie's mouth went dry. They're here? Kyung-hee looked at her, and in that look was something she hadn't gotten in the ballroom, certainty that she mattered, if only because she was his responsibility now. Stay in your room, he said. Bonnie shook her head. No, I'm not running alone again. Kyung-hee's eyes narrowed, not angry, calculating. Then stay behind me, he said. The elevator chimes sounded. Two men stepped out, dressed like hotel guests, hands in pockets. Their eyes went straight to Bonnie. One smiled. Mrs. Han, he said. Congratulations. Kyung-hee moved between them and Bonnie with a speed that stole her breath. Leave, he said. The smiling man's hand slid from his pocket. Kyung-hee caught his wrist, twisted, and a small gun clattered onto the marble. The sound was bright and terrible. Bonnie froze. The second man lunged. Kung-hee's security moved fast and silent. A sharp grunt. A crash against the wall, then stillness. In seconds, both men were pinned, breathing hard. Kung-hee looked down at the one with the gun. "Tell Grant," he said, voice cold, "that he just declared this a war." The man spat. "He'll ruin her. He'll ruin you." Kung-hee didn't even glance at Bonnie when he answered. "He can try." Then Kung-hee turned and scanned Bonnie from head to toe, checking. "Are you hurt?" he asked. Bonnie shook her head, tears blurring the room. Her knees wanted to fold, but she forced herself upright. Kung-hee held her gaze for a long beat, and something unspoken passed between them, fear, fury, and a fragile thread of trust. "You're not alone anymore," he said, softer than his threats, steady as a vow. The marriage license was filed before Bonnie finished her first cup of coffee. By noon, Kyung-hee's statement was everywhere. The online tone shifted from mockery to caution. People didn't know what to do with a woman who looked humiliated on camera one night and married a man with serious money the next. Grant tried anyway. A source told a gossip site Bonnie had been unstable, jealous, dramatic. Kyung-hee's team answered within an hour. Bonnie ended her engagement after being deceived. She would not be commenting further. The wording was surgical. Grant's story lost traction. Inside the penthouse, Kyung-hee kept rules that sounded cold but felt safer than chaos. Separate bedrooms. No personal questions unless offered. Public unity. Private space. He didn't touch her. He didn't hover. But he was always there in controlled ways. Drivers, locks, quiet security updates. A phone delivered with a new number after Lena's only message made it through. "You always wanted the spotlight. Hope you like it now." On the third day, Kyung-hee gave Bonnie a ring. Not an engagement ring. A plain band in a small velvet box. "For appearances," he said. "You can wear it on a chain if you prefer." Bonnie stared at it. "I can't afford." "I didn't ask you to," he cut in, then softened a fraction. "It's mine. It's for my wife, that's the story. My wife." The words landed in Bonnie's chest with strange weight. That evening, paparazzi waited outside the building. Kyung-hee insisted they exit through the main doors anyway. "If we hide," he said, "they hunt harder." Bonnie's hands shook under the flashes. Kung-hee's palm settled lightly at the center of her back, barely a touch, but enough to steady her spine. "Mrs. Han," someone shouted, "did you marry him for revenge?" Bonnie's mouth went dry. Kyung-hee leaned close, voice low. "Breathe." One answer. "I married someone who didn't lie to me," Bonnie said. Her voice didn't break. In the car, she exhaled like she'd been underwater. "How do you do that?" she asked. Kung-hee's gaze stayed on the window. "You decide what you are," he said. "Then you act like it's already true." The suspense never left. Cars lingered too long at lights. A man watched the lobby one afternoon until Kung-hee's security approached and he vanished. Bonnie began flinching at elevator chimes. One night, Kyung-hee placed a legal notice on the counter. Grant was suing for defamation, claiming Bonnie and Kyung-hee had staged a smear campaign. Bonnie's stomach lurched. "He wants to drag me back into it." "Yes," Kyung-hee said. "He thinks pain will make you fold." Bonnie swallowed. "What do we do?" Kung-hee met her eyes. "We don't fold." Later, Bonnie found him on the balcony, suit jacket off, tie loosened, city lights cutting his face into hard angles. For the first time, he looked tired. Without thinking, she offered him her red scarf, the one she'd grabbed that first night. "You'll be cold," he said. "I'm already cold," Bonnie replied. "Take it." He wrapped it once around his neck with careful hands. The bright color looked wrong on him, and that wrongness made him look human. "Why do you hate him so much?" Bonnie asked quietly. Kung-hee stared at the river. "My father rebuilt our company in the United States," he said. Grant's family offered partnership, contracts, access. His jaw tightened. "It was a trap. Grant sabotaged a shipment, blamed my brother, and my brother took the fall." Bonnie's breath caught. What happened to him? Kyung-hee's eyes finally met hers. "He died," he said, and the word came out like a bruise. Grant kept smiling. Kept collecting awards. I decided he would pay. Bonnie's throat burned. I didn't know. You weren't supposed to, Kyung-hee said. People like him survive because no one wants to look too closely. The next day Kyung-hee took Bonnie to a charity lunch. A room full of donors who smiled with their teeth. Bonnie wore a navy dress his stylist delivered and a calm expression she practiced until it didn't look like fear. Grant was there. He crossed the room like he still owned her story. Lena hung on his arm in white, her smile sharp when she saw Bonnie's ring. Bonnie, Grant said, as if her name tasted sour. This is dramatic. Kyung-hee stepped forward. Grant's eyes flicked Bonnie. So it's true, he said. You married her for a headline. Kyung-hee's voice stayed calm. I married her because she deserved a choice. Lena laughed softly. She chose the richest option. Bonnie felt anger rise, hot and clean. I chose someone who doesn't hide, she said. You should try it. Lena's smile faltered. Grant's eyes hardened. Kyung-hee leaned toward Bonnie. We leave. Outside, Bonnie's phone buzzed with a new number and a single message. Next time we take you. Her blood drained. She showed Kyung-hee. For the first time, his control cracked. His face went pale, and his hand closed around her wrist, not hard, but like he needed to confirm she was still there. Get in the car, he said, voice low and dangerous. A van rolled slowly past the curb, windows dark. Kyung-hee's security shifted. The van paused, then sped away. Inside the car, Kyung-hee's breathing was rough, his eyes fixed on the street like he could bend it with will. Bonnie whispered, They're going to kidnap me. Kyung-hee turned to her, and there was fear in him, real and unhidden. They won't, he said. Not while I'm alive. Back at the penthouse, he doubled security without apology. A new keypad appeared on her door. A small panic button was clipped to her keychain. Press it and every floor locks, he said. His voice was steady, but his hands weren't. Later, Bonnie woke to a soft sound and found him on the couch outside her room. Suit on, eyes open. You don't sleep? She whispered. Not tonight, he said. She brought him tea. When he took the mug, his fingers lingered a beat too long. 2 weeks later, DC felt less like a city and more like a trap. Bonnie learned the safest routes, the exits with cameras, the places Kyung-hee's team had quietly secured. She learned to keep her shoulders back, to let the ring catch the light, to look like a woman who couldn't be moved. On a rainy Tuesday, Kyung-hee's attorney called with what sounded like victory. Anderson is bleeding, she said on speaker. We have records and payments that tie him to intimidation. If we file, he's exposed. Kyung-hee's eyes flicked to Bonnie. File it, he said. That afternoon, he insisted Bonnie accompany him to a courthouse meeting. Public, he said. Cameras, witnesses, safer. In the lobby, everything smelled like stone and old paper. Bonnie kept her thumb on the panic button, clipped inside her coat pocket. Kyung-hee's security formed a loose perimeter as they walked. Then Bonnie saw Lena across the lobby, alone, makeup perfect, eyes sharp. Lena stepped forward fast, as if she'd been waiting. Bonnie, Lena said sweetly. Can we talk? Just us. There's nothing to talk about, Bonnie replied. Lena's smile tightened. Grant says you're being used, she murmured. He says Han doesn't care. He just wants to hurt Grant. Ask him what happens after 1 year. The words hooked into Bonnie's ribs. The contract, the clean clauses, the year-long cage she'd agreed to because she'd been bleeding. Kyung-hee stepped closer. Step away from my wife, he said, voice low. Lena's eyes flashed. She's not your wife, she snapped, then rearranged her face into a smile when passers-by glanced over. Not really. Security guided Bonnie forward. Lena didn't follow, but her gaze stayed on Bonnie like a hand on her throat. They reached a conference room. Lawyers spoke fast. Papers slid. Bonnie heard Grant's name paired with violations, heard the faintest possibility that this might end. Then the fire alarm screamed. Lights flashed. People spilled into hallways. One of Kyung-hee's men went rigid. That's not scheduled. No elevators, Kyung-hee ordered. Stairs only. They entered the stairwell with a stream of strangers. Concrete echoed with hurried steps. A faint smell of smoke crept in, just enough to make everyone believe it. On the second flight down, the crowd compressed. A door slammed. Bodies pressed. A hand caught Bonnie's elbow from behind. A voice breathed near her ear. Don't fight. A cloth pressed to her mouth. Chemical sweetness flooded her nose. Bonnie tried to inhale and couldn't. Her vision tunneled. Bonnie! Kyung-hee's voice cut through the stairwell, furious and raw. She tried to turn to reach for him, but her limbs went heavy. The last thing she saw was Kyung-hee shoving through people like he could split the crowd, and then darkness swallowed her. Bonnie woke on the floor of a moving van, wrists biting against plastic ties. Dim light. Two men watching her like inventory. One smiled. Mrs. Han, you're expensive. Her panic button was gone. Her phone was gone. Rain drummed on the roof as the van cut through industrial streets near the river. Bonnie forced her breathing slow, fighting the dizzy pull of whatever they'd used. Grant sent you, she rasped. Grant paid, the man said. That's all. The van slowed. A garage door rattled open. Then thunder split the night. Too sharp, too close. The van rocked. Metal screamed. The kidnappers swore and reached for weapons. The back doors blew inward. Kyung-hee filled the opening, rain plastering his hair, eyes wild. He didn't look like a billionaire heir now. He looked like a man who had snapped a restraint. Move, he said. One man raised a gun. Kyung-hee fired first. The shot deafened Bonnie. The man dropped, weapon clattering. Kyung-hee stepped over him and reached for Bonnie with shaking hands, tearing at the ties. I'm here, he said, voice rough. I've got you. His security flooded in behind him, finishing the rest in fast, brutal motions Bonnie couldn't track. Kyung-hee lifted her, wrapped her in his coat, and carried her into a car with the heater blasting. She shook so hard her teeth clicked. Kyung-hee sat beside her, one hand on her knee, grounding her. His breathing was uneven. You were scared, Bonnie whispered. Kyung-hee swallowed. Yes. Why? He leaned closer, voice breaking on honesty. Because I told myself this was strategy, he said. A contract. Then I heard you disappear in that stairwell and I didn't care about the war anymore. I cared about you. I didn't ask for any of this, Bonnie whispered. But you didn't lie to me. You didn't let them break me. Kyung-hee's thumb brushed her through the blanket, gentle. Tell me to stop, he said. And I will. Bonnie shook her head. Don't stop. Relief hit him so hard his shoulders sagged. Bonnie Caldwell, he whispered. I love you. Not for revenge, not for optics. For you. Bonnie threaded her fingers through his, firm. Then choose me, she said. Kyung-hee tightened his grip like a vow. I already did. Later, Kyung-hee placed the original contract on the table between them. The paper looked smaller now, less like a cage. The year clause, he said, was for protection, not a deadline. He slid it toward her with a pen. If you want out, you walk right now. If you stay, it's because you want me. Bonnie stared, then drew one clean line through the end date and signed beside it. By sunrise, the raid hit the news. Federal agents seized Anderson records. Contractors tied to the abduction were arrested. Grant's name appeared beside words like investigation and conspiracy. Lena's face surfaced on courthouse footage, leaving minutes before the alarm, smile perfect and cold. Bonnie watched the coverage wrapped in a blanket, her hand still in Kyung-hee's. The fear hadn't vanished, but it wasn't loneliness anymore. Kyung-hee stood behind her, arms around her shoulders, careful and warm. This ends, he murmured into her hair. Bonnie leaned back against him and let herself believe it. Together, she said. Together, Kyung-hee answered. And that's the end of today's story. If you enjoyed this story, make sure you follow Endless Story Diaries for more stories filled with love, betrayal, revenge, and unexpected twists. Now I want to hear from you. Do you think she made the right decision? Or would you have done something different? Tell me in the comments. And remember, Every heart has a secret, and every secret has a story. This is Endless Story Diaries.